Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott, and this is dedicated to all those spirits out there who believe life is meant to be magical and fun. Here we venture to share the very mysteries of self and reality. My purpose is to help light that spark inside of you, to reawaken your sense of fascination and awe towards the world. I'm going to try to help you hack reality and unleash your potential and open unlimited possibilities of wealth, health, and relationships in your life. Welcome. Today's episode, I wanted to focus on this idea of the star sector and the soul frail. These are terms that are used in the Transurfing book, and I wanted to go a little bit deeper on it. The word frail is used in Transurfing 55 times, and it does not mean what we think it means when we think of frail, which is weak. The word frail seems to have its own unique meaning to Transurfing. So there is something to this, and there's this reference, there's a specific frail that we have. And I wanted to understand this. I've discussed it a little bit on other episodes, but I've got some passages from Transurfing, and I wanted to go into a little more detail to help me to understand, and maybe by doing that, as I have in other episodes, to help you understand. If this is the first time that you're listening to my podcast or on YouTube, understand that Reality Transurfing is a wonderful book written by Vadim Zeland that gives you unique and powerful ways to create your own reality. And it has a number of fascinating and complex subjects. And sometimes it kind of helps to go in and break this stuff down so that we better understand it. It was translated from Russian and it was written by Vadim Zeland, a former physicist or current physicist who has written about these things. And the really powerful thing about it when you read this book is that it really speaks to your soul. It speaks to you as if you acknowledge that we already had. But one of the really powerful and interesting things is the idea of the star sector. Now, in the book, the star sector is really only mentioned in one paragraph. And there's a lot of discussion on the frail. So Zeland says, every soul has its own individual star sector in the information field. Now, when he refers to the information field, that's the information field that is the alternative space that is in the void, that we have access to, that can determine our future and the outer intention, the way that the outer intention is produced in our world, and can determine what happens to us in our future. This information field we access it on a regular basis. He says it is clear that there may be an infinite number of star sectors, but for the purpose of explanation, we will conditionally assume that the individual soul has one unique sector of the field in the form of an individual goal or path. And he is saying star, as in you will be a star, like a movie star, like a star. That is my interpretation of it. So distracted by the lure of the pendulum, and the pendulum are large thought, energetic, living entities that are similar to groups, families, organizations that end up having their own power and use the power of thought. I have another episode on pendulums. Check out my links for this episode, and there's a much better description and understanding of pendulums. But he says, distracted by the lure of the pendulum, the mind will senselessly stagnate in someone else's star sector, trying to copy their qualities or repeat the script of their success. Copying someone else's script always creates a parody. The heart's potential can never be fully realized in a sector that does not belong to it. So how do you find your true sector? There is no need for the mind to worry about this, because when left unhindered, the heart will find the path of self-expression. The mind's task is to forget about other people's experiences and to acknowledge the heart's extraordinary power. So let's talk about this word frail. And I think this is part of the star sector and the word soul. Frail, I'm asking anybody that is listening to this that possibly knows Russian, is there any kind of Russian translation problem, or is this a word that was created, and what is it referring to? When I look up the word frail, and it's F-R-A-I-L-E, it's not really defined on the internet. There is a term used in this book in the end of Transurfing in the definition section called frailing, and that is referring to something that appears to be different than this. And that frailing is an interpersonal way, instead of expecting someone to give something to you, that you give something else to somebody and you end up getting it back. That's all the definition said. So in the book, it says the soul has a unique range of parameters, which in the context of transurfing is referred to as frail. So we're understanding that the soul, your soul, our soul, whatever you want to define the soul as, has a certain number of parameters that are unique to you. Again, for the sake of the simplicity of the model, we will consider the soul's frail its characteristic frequency. Everyone's frail is unique, like the structure of a snowflake. No two are the same. The frail characterizes the unique and incomparable essence of a person's soul. So we all have this unique essence, very much like a snowflake. And perhaps if we could look at our souls as a thing outside of our body, maybe it is like some kind of fractal snowflake that's completely different for everybody else. And it's our own frequency. Everybody is unique. We can only guess at the form frail takes because it manifests implicitly, hidden under the masks of the intellect which every individual wears. For this reason, there would not be much point in going into this notion more deeply here. It is beyond doubt, however, that every individual has a unique soul essence. And my personal belief is this soul essence is part of the star sector. Understanding this and talking about these things together will help us to understand how we can find our own soul sector and accomplish a perfect goal, not just any goal, but the goal that we're meant to accomplish, where we can truly become a star. You can describe the character, habits, manner, and appearance of a person you know, and yet there will be something else beyond these characteristics. An integral image of that person that you understand without words. It is this an individual essence that requires no explanation that we call frail. Again, here they're referring to the soul and this unique essence. You may have come across people who emanate an elusive and indefinable charm. Surprisingly, they may be relatively unattractive in their outward appearance, and yet soon as they begin to speak, you immediately forget their physical shortcomings and are entirely spellbound. Have you guys ever seen this happen? You see somebody and right away they're a little bit off or a little bit ugly to your own appearance, and then they start talking, and over time they just become much more beautiful. I see that all the time. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, in the eye of the soul. When asked wherein lies that person's charm, you can only mutter, "There's something about them," finding no other explanation. Such people are extremely rare. If there are none in your circle of acquaintances, look at them among the stars of show business, Zeland says. And Zeland gives the example. The hallmark of these personalities in show business is the exceptional beauty and charm seems to radiate from the depths of their soul. You'll immediately recognize that their beauty is different to a doll-like beauty. For a doll-like beauty is purely external and corresponds to conventional, established standards. From the point of view of frail, the secret of this type of charming beauty lies not in the fact that a person has a beautiful heart or other special spiritual quality. You will come to accept, or not as you wish, another paradox of the transurfing view. Beauty lies not in the heart or soul, but rather in the harmonious connection between the heart and mind. And this is repeated throughout the book, this connection between the heart and mind, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more later on this episode. But if we can connect our heart and mind and they agree with each other, it can outwardly make us more beautiful. And I believe in that. No one who has not yet learned to love themselves, who is self-critical, begrudges their work, lives in mental turmoil, or at odds with their own soul, can ever radiate the beauty of charm. Conflict between the heart and the mind is reflected in a person's outward appearance and their character. So if you have a conflict between your heart and your mind and they're not together, maybe that radiates out into something that makes us look ugly. We see people all the time around us, family members, friends, that have conflicts, and you can see the ugliness come out. If a person is happy and has learned to love themselves, if they enjoy life and they do what they want to do, then they will exude a certain inner light, which indicates that the mind is attuned to the soul's frail. And that is a wonderful thing. The idea that we can tune into this frequency of our soul. And I can promise you, if I am trying to help somebody that is seeking out love, or the love of a specific person, or the love, which is often what happens with life coaches or dating coaches, they deeply want to find love. And my first question every single time is, do you love yourself? And how much do you love yourself? And I can always find out that's the problem. You may be struggling to find somebody in your life, and it may be because you don't love yourself. And loving yourself is possible. Check out my episode on the Love Revolution. These are things that we can do. I have a meditation, the Love Vortex, and new ones coming. But you, just by simply finding a way to love yourself, can really start to radiate an inner beauty and light. Self-fulfillment and a balanced relationship between heart and mind generate something very similar. Inner peace ignites an inner light that reminds the heart of its true nature, which is why the beauty of harmony is interpreted as charm or spiritual beauty. This kind of beauty sometimes evokes hidden envy, and people ask, how come you look so radiant? The heart is not at peace when the mind is suffocating in a case, but when it's caressing the heart like a rose in an orangery, admiring and caring for it, allowing every petal to open freely. This is that rare thing we call happiness. Frail, again mentioned in the book, can manifest in the form of a hobby or other pursuit, and anything that is done with love and enthusiasm. You find somebody that's found their passion, their purpose, their particular meaning in life, and you will often find they are quite beautiful. And you may think it's a physical thing, but it's not. Often the strings of the frail rest silent for a long time. And this is true. Just because in the past you have not found your purpose, or you have not found a way to connect your heart and mind, many people have not found their frail, their essence. And sometimes a sign of some kind will cause a string to sound. It could be an unexpected passing comment that for some reason strikes a chord in your soul, or something that you see as a special magnetism that immediately draws you to it, and you begin to sense a vaguely perceptible urging over and over. This is the outer intention of the soul working. But since it is vague, yearning outer intention works without any specific aim. You have an outer intention that you want without an aim. It is important to listen to the dictates of your heart so that the mind can pick up on them. And then you can catch hold of outer intention and quickly achieve your desire. If you don't understand the difference between inner and outer intention, you have intentions, and you have intentions of things that you want that happen on the outside and on the inside. It's kind of simple to understand, but there is a difference between the two. What prevents the mind from entering into a relationship with the heart? Once again, importance is the problem, along with our old friends, the pendulums. One of the key things that is repeated throughout the book, Reality Transurfing, is the fatal flaw of importance, making yourself important, making your goals important, making your manifestation important, and that detachment from that. And pendulums. And those are two things that can inhibit the relationship from the mind to the heart. So that's why these things are important. The pendulums install false aims and values. And as we said earlier, it is pendulums that set the standards of our notions of beauty, success, and abundance, and inner and outer importance that motivate the individual to compare themselves with these standards. It's an old story that we've all heard and seen. You watch TV, you read the magazine, and they tell you what's beautiful. And over time, you consider something beautiful because everybody else says that's beautiful. We wake into our new lives from babies, and everything is beautiful. Everybody is beautiful. Every plant and animal is beautiful. And we're slowly crafted over time by these powers of these pendulums that tell us what is beautiful and not. Would they have their own intentions all along? Naturally, the mind finds a bundle of shortcomings because it becomes aware of all this and starts to hate itself, and consequently the heart too. It tries on all sorts of masks, trying to make the frail, the soul's essence, fit the standards. But you can't make the snowflake into something else. And as a rule, nothing good comes of this. As a result, the rift that exists between the heart and mind widens. How then can there be questions of inner peace? The mind waters its rose, according to Zeland, with reproach and dissatisfaction, and the rose becomes ever more feeble. The mind will search for treasure anywhere except in its own heart. Pendulums tout loudly and seductively while the heart tries quietly and delicately to make its abilities and inclinations known. The mind does not listen to the heart and tries to change frail. That's what Zeland says. The mind tries to change the frail. And naturally, nothing good comes of this either. And as a result, the heart and mind converge in their decision to negate these imaginary imperfections. Outer intention immediately transfers the individual to a lifeline where hostility intensifies because imperfections have literally materialized. So the heart and mind can converge to negate imaginary imperfections, but it can also, the mind, by splitting from the heart, can take us to a lifeline where these imperfections materialize. The mind assumes that if it wears a correcting mask, it will be able to meet the established standards. And this is fruitless, like chasing after a mirage. Rather than making the most of the frail's precious uniqueness, people beat against the window pane, chasing after success of another. And this is an analogy that Zeland uses a lot, is beating against the window pane. And he refers in another part of the book to this, the idea of a fly trying to get into a house, and it comes up on the window and it's closed, when all it has to do is go up and the window's open and through. And so imagine that you're a fly and you come up and you beat against the window and keep on beating against the window when all you had to do is go up and through. And that is the analogy he uses when he refers to the window pane. That happens when you see somebody else that's successful and you're like, wow, I want to be successful like that person. I really want to be successful like them. And that's the same as the fly beating against the window pane. And you, maybe you can find your success by something unique in you. Everybody listening to this right now has something deep in their heart that they were meant to or can do or will do perfectly that'll make you a star, and you will be so happy and wonderful. And that's what I'm trying to get at with this episode, because I want everybody to be the star that you were meant to be, to find the star sector in your life when you come into terms with the frequency of your frail. The mind does not listen to the heart and tries to change the frail, he says. And we are trying to avoid that. Outer intention immediately transfers the individual to a lifeline where hostility intensifies. That is what we're trying to avoid. Rather than making the most of the frail's precious uniqueness, people beat against the window pane. I'm repeating these sentences because I think they're very important and I'm wanting to emphasize them. So, if your hunting the mirage achieves nothing and it makes you deeply dissatisfied, no one will ever reach a lifeline where they accept themselves and feel fulfilled by expressing fundamental dissatisfaction with the self. The parameters of their energy field will simply correspond to lifelines where they have even more reason to feel unfulfilled. This is the game that the pendulums inflict upon us. It appears senseless, but from the pendulum's standpoint, the game has a very definite meaning. Dissatisfaction and lack of fulfillment are their favorite dishes. The pendulums love to make you feel dissatisfied and lack fulfillment because they gain thought energy from you. Either way, and they propel and grow in power. How can you attune the mind to the heart's frail is the question that we need to ask. The only way, according to Zeland, is to convince the mind that above all, the heart is worthy of love. You have to first love yourself and then pay attention to the virtues of others. Love for the self should not be confused with self-satisfaction, vanity, or complacency, but love for yourself. Complacent self-satisfaction comes from considering oneself superior to others and creates a dangerous excess potential. Excess potential is a term that Vadim Zeland uses when there is an imbalance that occurs and nature has to resolve that imbalance. So there's excess potential that can occur if you're standing on the ledge of a building, and if you take one step, the potential would be excess. So there's a balancing mechanism. So he uses that term. To love yourself means to understand your own uniqueness and accept yourself the way you are, warts and all. No matter what problems that you have, accept yourself. No matter what, whatever problems that you think you have, be it your weight, your eyebrows, your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your neck. Everybody has those little things that they're all worried about. You got to find your way to love it all. The love you have for yourself must be unconditional. Otherwise, it will turn into excess potential. And this is hard because the pendulums are constantly telling you that you're not beautiful and that you're not good enough, that you're too fat, too dumb, too weird, that your eyebrows are too big, that your lips are too thin, or that your ears are too pointy. Whatever it is, I promise you, love it because I love it. And everybody that is meant to love it will come into your life. If a person has gone too far in the battle with their frail, if they're battling this true potential, it will be difficult for them to just up and love themselves. Maybe some of these things you can manifest to fix, but in the meantime, love yourself. And this is important. There is some wonderful books, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, wonderful book that I talked about a little bit with Quasi in my interview. And the idea is, what he would see people that when they would have a minor modification done in a plastic surgery, he was a plastic surgeon, and he would see these huge transformations in their lives once they had accepted themselves. And maybe that little transformation was enough for them to accept their soul's frail. I can tell you in my own circumstance, I had a jaw surgery, I had a big underbite. And so I thought, hey, I did not love myself. I couldn't smile. And it was difficult for me to relate to other people. And when I had the surgery, the truth is most people really didn't notice the difference, but I did. And I kind of figured out after I had gone this transformation that if I had not gone through it, I could still have had the same transformation. So whatever thing that you're focused on right now that you think is not good enough, I promise you, if you let it go and just love yourself, you will let go of some of this excess potential. The question is then asked, how can I love myself if I do not even like myself? This is pure excess potential, born of increased inner and outer importance. And excess potential means there's going to be a balancing force that will come into play that can pull you into a timeline, a sector that you do not want to have manifest in your life. We continue to talk about that. And this is one way that excess potential can be affected. And this pure excess potential is born out of increased inner and outer importance. So one way that you can find to love yourself is to let go of your inner and outer importance. Find a little bit of humility inside yourself and find a little bit of humility on the outside. And then some of that stuff isn't important. Outer important lies in the fact that I take someone else's standards to be the truth. So if somebody else says my nose needs to be this way and all these people say that I'm taking their facts as the truth. BS, come on. Perhaps, as Zeland says, I'm valuing the virtues of others too highly, and you should ask that. Internal importance lies in the fact that I force myself to follow other people's standards. Who said that I am any less than they are? I'm just me. Could my self-esteem be too low? To learn to love yourself, to shake outer importance off its pedestal, and give up worshiping other people's standards. Who is stopping you from creating your own standards? What is your own standards of beauty? Let others chase after your standards. Release inner importance and let yourself go. You're not obliged to follow or live up to other people's standards. You have to remain aware of the fact that the pendulums need importance, not you. They need the importance of that nose job, that lip job, because maybe that pendulum can make money off of it, or it can, whatever it is, you don't even have to analyze it. When you love your heart with all your mind, outer intention will carry you to a lifeline where you will be totally accepting of yourself. This seems like a very simple and cliche teaching. Love yourself. You are beautiful. But I'm talking about this in the matter of you creating a reality and a possible future lifeline for yourself. And that's in a different, it's a way of thinking. So if you like yourself no matter what, you will succeed in deceiving outer intention and reveal qualities you never suspected having. When your thought energy radiates at the frequency of self-acceptance and self-fulfillment, outer intention will pick you up and carry you on to lifelines where you really do have something to be proud of. You know, one of the commandments in the Bible is love your neighbor as yourself. And everybody focuses on the point of the love your neighbor. But the commandment presupposes that you already have love for the self. The Bible's commanding you to. Leave the game enforced by the pendulums and begin to love yourself starting today. Right now, this moment. Right now, as you're listening to this, as you're watching this, buy yourself your favorite treat and have a personal party. Give yourself tender loving care. Some may maliciously continue, indulge in all your weaknesses and bad habits. But this is demagoguery of pendulums, and I see no reason why the pendulums of the media and the government and all these places, I see no reason why that you should accept what they're saying. You are wonderful and beautiful, and I see no reason why. You already know what it means to love the self. Weaknesses and bad habits are only induced by the pendulums. There is no need to set out in search of the holy grail somewhere in the depths of the jungle to solve your problems. It's inside of you. There's no need to go and find some unique technique, some unique beauty tip, some unique special exercise that you need. All of it is right now inside of you. And if you can find it in the frail of your soul. And that is what we're trying to do. So when he just talks about the frail, he characterizes the individual essence of the human soul. And chasing after other people's standards, the mind becomes all the more divorced from the heart. So when you start to look at standards, it becomes divorced from the heart. You'll acquire many hidden virtues by attuning your mind to the soul's frail. So until now, we've looked at the outside world as an alternative space with sectors linked into lifelines and star sectors. And if the parameters of a person's thought energy corresponds to the energy of a given sector, that sector is then transformed into physical reality through the process of material realization. On an energetic level, the individual also represents a unique essence imbued with its own inimitable spectrum of emission. There is a lifeline in the alternative space that matches every individual's frail perfectly. And that's what I want you to find. When a person lives out this lifeline, they encounter minimal obstacles and circumstances always work in their favor. The soul's frail successfully fits into its own true lifeline and easily reaches its goal in the same way that your own key easily turns in the lock and opens the door. We do not necessarily need to know why and how this happens. What is significant is the fact that each individual has their own path. When a person walks towards the right goal along the path meant for them in the star sector, everything turns out favorably. When the opposite happens and a person turns off the path they're traveling, they meet all kinds of adversity, and life becomes a continual battle for survival. This is a tragedy for the soul. You get upset if the weather is foul at the weekend. So just imagine how the soul feels when it sees the unique chance given to it in this lifetime being wasted. Can you imagine how the soul feels when it sees that you could go this direction and you could be a literal star, but it's just being wasted because you're getting sucked into all of these other things? Some hurricane over here is sucking you away. The soul can see how the mind, infatuated with pendulums, ruins its life, but it is powerless to change things. And when the soul comes into this world, it does not know exactly what to do, what it wants, and what to strive for. And if the soul does not know exactly, it can at least guess. But the mind will not listen. Then the pendulums put the mind into circulation, imposing on it their own goals and game rules. They force people to choose goals that are not their own and crowd around other people's doorways. Maybe it's your political party, maybe it's the group that you're in, maybe it's the state, maybe it's the country, maybe it's the special group that you're a part of. Whatever it is, it's a pendulum. And it has its own intentions outside of you, and it has nothing to do with your frail. The soul's feeble attempts to influence the mind, when it does know something, come to nothing. And so powerful is the pendulum's influence. So powerful. For many of us, the idea that success only comes from grueling hard work is instilled in us from childhood. Equally ingrained is the idea you have to stubbornly strive towards your goal, overcoming all obstacles along the way if you want to succeed. Zeland says, one of our greatest delusions is that we have to fight for happiness. Be stubborn, persevering, overcome countless obstacles, and basically fight for a place in the sun. And he's saying that this is not true. And imagine if you don't have to fight for it, you can go with the flow. So this is particularly misleading and undermining formula when you have this, and I'm guilty of it. I've even posted things on Facebook. Hard work is the key, and it is on some level, but it's not hard work when you're following your soul's frail. It's not. It may seem like it to others that you're persevering or being stubborn or you're having obstacles, but when you're following your soul's frail, it's not hard. Normally a person turns off their path when they succumb to the influence of a pendulum. Naturally, numerous obstacles start pulling up in front of them. If a person wants to be happy, they have to overcome the obstacles. Can you guess where the delusion of that is? Perhaps the delusion lies in the fact that the person effectively begins working towards someone else's goal, passing through someone else's door. Again, the answer is surprising. Like everything else in transurfing, the fundamental misconception lies in the erroneous conviction that if a person overcomes obstacles in front of them, happiness will be waiting on the other side. And that is an illusion. There is no happiness on the other side. However hard a person tries to find themselves chasing after whatever it is they want, no happiness awaits a person in the near or distant future when they are living a lifeline that is not their true path. Now, I did dedicate a whole episode on finding your life's purpose, and this is very related. There's so many little details. Not everybody can find their life's purpose or their true path. But let me tell you something, there is magic when you do. Many people just feel depleted when not without great difficulty. They finally reach their goal. What happened to the happiness? They finally reached what they wanted. Where's the happiness? You see stories about this all the time. Well, it was never there in the first place. It was just a mirage of illusory happiness created by someone else, created by pendulums to make people give up their energy. Happiness is not out there, somewhere just ahead of you. It is in your current lifeline, right here, right now. We go back to when I talk about mindfulness and the power of now. If you are happy now, then you're going to find your way along that path. So what does happiness look like in the transurfing model? Is it something that you arrive at when you've attained your true goal? That is not it. Happiness is what you experience on the journey towards your own goal, on the path through your own door. When a person is on a lifeline, meant for them and following their own true path, they experience happiness in the moment right now. So they're saying it a little differently than people that promote mindfulness and even basic law of attraction teaching. And that is, when you find your soul's frail and your purpose, the happiness, it's easier to be happy in the moment, which will radiate happiness and bring you more happiness. When a person is present moment, even if attainment of the actual goal still lies ahead, life becomes transformed into an ongoing celebration, according to Zeland. So when the goal is achieved, they'll be doubly happy. But in the meantime, the process of striving makes every day a holiday. Achieving a goal that is not truly yours will bring disappointment and depletion, but never happiness. Your goal is the thing that makes you deeply fulfilled. It is not something that fulfills you temporarily. It is the thing that gives you a sense of the real joy of life. Your personal door represents your journeying along the path towards your goal, experienced with passion and inspiration. How do we find this? Well, let's keep delving into what it says. It is not necessarily that everything comes easily, but when you're using your own door, you don't necessarily feel depleted. On the contrary, you feel energized. When you work towards your own goal through your own door, obstacles are easily overcome and work does not feel like a burden. If you are making maximum effort to achieve your goal, but left feeling uninspired and fatigued, that's a real question. Then either the goal is not meant for you or you are banging on the wrong door. So are you aiming for a goal in particular? Is there a goal that you have? And are you inspired by it? Are you left fatigued in the process of going towards it? Then it may not be the goal for you. And some people have gone through college and spent 8 years of college and have dedicated 10 years of their lives towards a goal, and they've literally given up any other chances of your goal. But if you're left feeling tired, then check your feelings on this. And it's sometimes hard to take that U-turn, but you can do it. You can do it. It is within you to do this. When you work towards your own goal through your own door, obstacles are easily overcome. These are the features of goals that are not your own. A foreign goal always feels like an obligation. So if you have a goal and you feel like it's an obligation, that's one thing to remember. It is punishing and forced. If you feel that your goal represents an enforced obligation in the slightest way, then you should dump it boldly. And one of the things I've had in coaching other people is a real resistance in having people release goals that are not for them. So if the goal is yours, you should not have to persuade yourself to work on it because you will be enjoying it so much. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have whatever you want. You can. You can. If you want to swim up the river, you can do it, but it's going to be harder. Okay? And there may be something down the river if you just let it float that's even better, that's meant for you, that's uniquely incredible. And imagine that. If the goal is yours, you should not have to persuade yourself to work on it because you'll be enjoying it so much. When you work towards a foreign goal, there will always be numerous obstacles to overcome along the way, and it's always a struggle. The pendulum requires everyone to work like a cog in the greater machine. And so when you are working for a foreign goal, you will continue working even though it is a slog. Because you have been programmed to believe that everything will come to you eventually if you can just work hard enough. If you're strong and cool, you'll master yourself, clear everything from your path, survive hell and high water, and finally win your place in the sun. And if you're weak, shut up and know your place. A foreign goal is presented as being fashionable and prestigious. Pendulums need to lure you away from your perfect lifeline. There are forces at work that do not want you to find your lifeline, and so they do their best to offer really delicious looking carrot to trigger the adherent's mind into rushing headlong after it. And so I'm just asking you how these words are reflecting in your soul when I say these things. They should evoke a response in you. Pendulums cannot always force you to follow the rule, do as I do. You have to want to observe the rule, and so myths are created that tell the story of the star's successful career. The pendulums demonstrate the pattern of their success and leave you with a choice of either repeating someone else's experience or ending up with nothing, for how could you possibly know how to achieve success? The pendulums clearly know exactly what a person must do to become successful, and the results are there to prove it. As we have already demonstrated, stars achieve success precisely because they do not follow the rule, do as I do. They go their own way. And this is tough. This is a teaching. I am somebody that's fascinated by all self-help literature. And I've read any book, thousands, literally thousands of books. How to be successful. Got to do this, this, and this. And that transurfing is really taking a very unique point of view, and that there is a sweet, natural way of success. And the more I have accepted this, I have found it to be true. And I would love to know your experience with this and examples from you. Let me know in the comments. Only your soul can know the algorithm of your individual success. A foreign goal attracts you by the nature of seeming unachievable. The human psyche is such that we are attracted by everything kept under lock and key. If we can't have something, if it's too hard to get, we personally feel like we want that thing. It goes all the way back to when we were kids and our parents said we couldn't drink, and then suddenly we wanted to have that beer. It is human nature to long to possess things that are unavailable. And you see it all the time. The guy that's attracted to the woman that's married because he can't have her. So many different examples. This feature of the human psyche, it originates in childhood when we have many desires, but very little is accessible to us. And when a child is refused a toy, it will often play up until it gets it. And yet, when it finally receives the toy it so longed for, it suddenly loses all interest. Adults have their own toys, and they get themselves just as wound up over them as children do. Maybe you badly want that Tesla, and when you finally get that Tesla, it's not what you thought. For example, a grown-up child with a terrible voice and no ear for music thinks they love to sing. In reality, they just don't want to accept the fact that singing is not a part of their soul's purpose. Everyone else can sing. Why should they be better than me? So when considering your goals, drop the importance of the goal and ask yourself, do I really want this with all my heart and soul, or do I just enjoy wanting it? And so I'm trying to get at something that's very important. All these people talk about the law of attraction. You can visualize anything, it'll come to you, and that is true. You can manifest and achieve and have and do anything that you want. I'm not telling you that you can. But there is a sector in the field, in your lifeline, that is so incredible that you can't even imagine how wonderful and beautiful it is. It's delicious, a delicious celebration that you have. And you can access this, and once you do, the manifestations become ongoing and powerful, and it's really special and wonderful. Drop the importance of the goal and ask yourself, do I really want this with my heart and soul? Because that's when things really become magical. And if achieving the goal would mean that you could prove something either to yourself or to others, usually that's misguided. I want to get this because my parents are going to love me. I want to get this because my kids are going to be proud of me. I want to get this because then this girl is going to like me. I want to get this because then this guy is going to be attracted to me. Your goal does not hang around your neck like a lead weight. It gives you genuine pleasure. A foreign goal is imposed by others. No one can, but you can define your goal. You can calmly hear out the teaching of those who know better on how you should act, but afterwards you must draw your own conclusions and act as you see fit. No one should presume to teach you what you should be striving towards. Somebody tells you this is what you should be doing. That should not be what you're hearing, or you should ignore that. And such a rude intrusion into your soul should be quickly nipped in the bud. Your heart has enough to put up with listening to foolish ideas of the mind. No one can point to your goal. The only exception perhaps being via the casual passing phrase. As you remember, phrases mentioned in passing can serve as signs. Zeland says this a couple of times. Phrases in passing can be served as signs. When a passing phrase is a sign, you will sense it instantly. An unintentional phrase can unexpectedly ignite a flame in your soul. If the phrase touches on your goal, the heart will become enlivened, prompting you to the awareness that this is what you need. It has to be an incidental remark or recommendation spoken with no agenda and absolutely no intention of setting you on the right path. A foreign goal always serves to better someone else's well-being. If a goal does nothing to improve the quality of your life, then it certainly is not meant for you. True goals always work for you, for your well-being and your success. You are the only person that is in need of your individual goal. If a goal serves directly to fulfill other people's needs and improves other people's prosperity, then it's a foreign goal. So pendulums will use any pretext and any means to try and force you to serve others. Words like must, obligated, and have to usually have the necessary effect on people with a heightened sense of guilt. People like this often find solace in absolving their imaginary sins. For others, the slogan, "Your help is needed," is more effective and it works. And as you now understand, these methods rely on outer and internal importance. You have to remember that first and foremost, you live for yourself. You do not owe anyone anything, that you are not beholden to anyone. You cannot make other people happy, but you can easily injure others with your own unhappiness. A foreign goal evokes inner tension. Foreign goals are usually very attractive. The mind will paint a lavish picture of the goal's virtues in all its various hues. But despite its lure, if something about the goal does not sit right with you, then you have to be honest with yourself. Obviously, the mind will not want to listen because it is sure that everything is fine. So where does the shadow of apprehension come from? It's a good time to repeat an important rule from the previous discussions in other episodes. When considering your goal, do not think about how prestigious or seemingly unattainable it is. Don't think of, I can never do that, or I will be so prestigious. Focus your attention on inviting your inner voice to speak. How comfortable does thinking about this goal make you feel inwardly? Ask yourself that question. Imagine that you've already achieved your goal and all of this is behind you. Does it make you feel good or not? And if the pleasurable feeling is mixed with anxiety or the heavy feeling of burden, this is inner tension. And is it really worth committing to someone else's goal? Your own goal will be even more attractive and will give you even more pleasure without having to put up any tension on the inside of yourself. All you have to do is turn away from the pendulums and discover your true goal. If you're unfulfilled by your current position in life or have been plagued by a wave of misfortune, it means that at some point you have come under the influence of a destructive pendulum and passed through a foreign door towards a foreign goal. Foreign goals demand a lot of energy and hard work. Your own goals, on the other hand, seem to achieve themselves and everything goes like clockwork. Foreign goals and doors are always fraught with suffering, and yet when you find your own goals and doors, all of your problems will disappear. So I know many of you out there that are listening to this or watching this are asking, oh, how can I discover what I really want if I do not know what that is? So Zeland would answer with this question, with another question. Have you ever once seriously thought about it? However strange it might seem, the majority of people are so preoccupied with the affairs of pendulums and outside influences, spending all their time running around in circles like the proverbial hamster in the spinning wheel, that they just do not find the time for their own soul. People think about what they really want in life in random moments, when they're under pressure, rushing from one place to another, fleetingly catching ideas in snatches. Determining what your true goal is does not have to involve anything deep. It is enough to take a time alone, relax in meditation, I recommend. That is how I was able to come to it, but you don't need to meditate. And finally, a little listen to the rustle of the morning stars is what Zeland calls it, but just listen to that inner voice. What if you find there's nothing that you really want? What if you find that there's nothing you want? If you look inside yourself and have no sense of an innermost desire, this may suggest, according to Zeland, that your life force is depleted. Depression and apathy is a clear sign that your current energy levels are only sufficient to support your basic existence. So now we're going to talk about energy in relation to this. And check out my episode on energy. For the podcast, it's the most downloaded. YouTube, not as popular, but I do think that there's lots of different things that can be causing you to deplete your own energy. Connections to others, your own energy centers, there's all kinds of things. But when that happens, it's not possible for your heart to have no desires. When you increase your energy, it is possible for you to find your desires. And the next thing is breaking through these stereotypes. How do you do it? Despite the fact that we have we've talked a lot about pendulums in this episode, there's one more thing that can knock you off track. Ask yourself whether a pendulum is imposing a foreign goal on you under the guise of some noble pretext. For example, an appeal is being made to kind souls to help protect defenseless animals, injured soldiers, starving children, or vulnerable groups, according to Zeland. Those are things that are very important, and I'm not saying that they're not, but they can be used as forms of manipulation to pull you into the pendulum. Or perhaps someone somewhere is fighting for their freedom and they need your courageous heart. So the kind soul flies off there and then to wherever it is needed. In reality, it is not the kind heart that responds, but the kind mind. It's not the heart, it's the mind that is finding these things, and it is not so much kind as soulless. The mind forgets about the soul and drops everything to run to the aid of others. It is like leaving your own children in trouble to save someone else's child. So what I'm saying is there are lots of problems in the world, and when you start watching the news, you will get them all. And there's a part of you, of your mind, that wants to help, and that's fine. But is it your heart? Do not let go of that part of you that has a unique purpose in this world for these other interests. And maybe they are your purpose. I've certainly met people where they are. The mind forgets about the soul and drops everything to run to the aid of others in some circumstance. And so you don't want to forget your soul. The kind mind stuffs the heart back into its box to be left in peace with reasonable thoughts. Spiritual emptiness grows and the mind needs something to fill it. Pendulums are very quick to offer all kinds of compensation. They will demonstrate a wide range of ways that can contribute your energy to the benefits of others, and yet could not be that spiritual emptiness is what prompts people to respond to the call of others so enthusiastically. The kind-heartedness and charitable feeling associated with the positive stereotypes is really the effect of spiritual emptiness. Caring for others is the mind's way of compensating for spiritual emptiness, leaving the heart's needs unfulfilled. It is in the pendulum's interest to pass up caring for others as compassionate altruism. As you can see, pendulums are very sophisticated when it comes to creating convincing stereotypes. but it is nothing more than a beautiful demagoguery. What about your own soul? Surely your own mind will abandon it to save another. So I strongly recommend that you turn your back on pendulums and let the heart out of the box. When you learn to love yourself, and you will find your goal. Once you are securely on the path to your true goal, you will commit many good deeds and be able to help those who are poor and unfortunate along the way, because you will be attracting greater resources and opportunities into your life, and you will be able to help all those people until your own goal is clearly defined, and you should be extremely cautious in responding to appeals for help. Internal and outer importance should be kept to a minimum. So, to summarize, the frail is your soul's essence, and you have a star sector that you can go along. And I've tried to define some of the ways that you can use to achieve this star sector. And one of that is to find your true goal. And I've given you some questions to ask yourself, and I've given you some awareness of influences in your life that can pull you away from your soul's frail and the star sector that you're meant to go on. Go back to the last episode on coordination of intention. And then once you do this on a daily basis, simply follow along, find the advantage in every event that occurs, and follow your heart. Connect your heart to your mind, and incredible things are going to happen. There's so much more that's talked about. We've already got to a full hour on this, and so that is probably a good place for us to stop. But I just want to emphasize that you are a star. You are a star. Follow your star's path. Ask yourselves these questions. How can I discover what I really want? What is it that I want? Listen to your inner voice. Analyze how you feel when you're going along these paths, and don't be afraid to take another path, because of all the possible realities in the future for you, there is one that is so amazing and so incredible, and I want you to find it. And the first step is to let go of these pendulums, to line up your heart and mind, and listen to the rustle of the morning stars. I hope this inspires you. I hope this helps you if you're having or struggling with making decisions or finding your goal. I hope there's something in this that appeals to you. This helps me to understand the frail a little bit better. And I am speaking out to your frail and your soul. Stand up for yourself. Let yourself be heard. Look out at all the possibilities. What speaks to your heart, what gives you great joy, and follow it now. Because you deserve the best, because you are the best. Thank you so much for joining me. I am always so grateful when you spend time with me, and it means so much to me. All episodes of The Reality Revolution can be found at therealityrevolution.com. And if you'd like to get advanced coaching, I would love to help you find your true goal, to guide you along. Please go to my website at advancedsuccessinstitute.com. And I want to discuss this stuff further and deeper. So go to my group, The Reality Revolution, where we can discuss all of my episodes in detail. Please feel free. I don't even ask you any questions or try to get your email right now, maybe in the future, to join my group, The Reality Revolution. It's on Facebook. And email me if you have any questions or anything that you want at media@advancedsuccessinstitute.com. I am honored that you've joined me for this excursion into reality. And you are on your path to finding your true soul's frail and moving into the star sector, and I cannot wait to see you as the star that you are. Welcome to the reality revolution.